So, Susie, you've mentioned before that you weren't into Nirvana when they were around, but that over the past few years you've really gotten into them. How exactly did that happen?
It's a very strange thing. In fact, I didn't realize it until I was taking her back and forth for about a year to a dentist appointment. She had some braces and stuff. And so we spent quite a bit of time in the car. And she kept playing Nirvana. And I mentioned it at a family dinner. Oh, I love them. And my daughter said, "You love them?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "I used to play them when I was a teenager. And you screamed at me, turn that noise off." So I don't know why that happened. Maybe I was downstairs doing something and I just heard the loud music and I didn't really listen. But wow, I really, really, really got into them. I think he's fascinating. He's morbidly in pain all the time, but in such a wonderfully talented, he's a reluctant star, but wow, Nirvana are just great. Absolutely love them. I guess I was just in the right place to hear them. You know, I don't know, maybe I was more receptive, riding in the car and kept being played and all that. And something got into me.
Can you relate to Kurt Cobain as an artist yourself?
Yes, 100%. He was an unfortunate person that he had all that natural X factor, charisma, talent, that uniqueness that makes a star. And he absolutely hated being a star. And it's such an unusual combination, you know. I can see, there are people that are reluctant to the public eye and all that, but he must have been at odds with himself his whole life. As an artist, it's not easy anyway. You're dealing with praise to the highest degree, and then with negativity to the highest degree. So you put yourself in the line for a lot of shit when you're famous. A lot of shit, a lot of good stuff, a lot of bad stuff, and you have to be balanced. First of all, how you take it, and second of all, how you deal with it. And the ego being a big part of it. You must leave your ego on the stage. I would say he was egoless. That's what I would say. And he didn't have any of the tools to deal with what happened to him. What really did it for me, I kept hearing him on the way to the dentist back and forth, and I kept saying to my granddaughter, "Amy, these guys are really good." She said, "Yes, I know, Grandma." But when I saw their that Unplugged concert that he did on YouTube, that is what really swayed me. I don't know why, but that got me all the way. And to see those songs done unplugged, wow. And then you saw the depth. It was the artistry that got to me. He was fascinating. Like I said, morbidly fascinating,
It's funny you mentioned Unplugged, because I was speaking recently with Ernie Bailey, and he mentioned that in the hours leading up to the Unplugged performance, there was a little bit of uncertainty within the band about how the performance would go. There was, a little bit of uneasiness, thinking that this might not go so well because they haven't really done anything like this before. Is that what it's like being a musician? Is there like a nervousness prior to a big show?
It can be, but it's always organized chaos. It can be crazy, but I myself, speaking personally, will always stay focused. The gig. And no matter what craziness is going on, it's the gig. So I'm very professional that way. I won't let anything sway me. But I do pace. My boys always laugh. About 25 minutes before we go on, I will come into their room, I will be ready, and I will be pacing until we get out there. It's the longest 25 minutes of my life before we go on stage.
What is it in particular about Nirvana as a band that you admire?
The band members, I don't think, when I watched them work together, it's for some crazy reason they were the perfect lineup. Mm-hmm. They worked together. They complemented each other. Do you agree?
I agree 100%. 100%.
Yeah. The three of them were on the same page, and that's what made it work. I got to all click. That's why we say, and I've been talking a lot about this when I've been doing my bass line. I've done 50 tomorrow. I don't know if you've caught them. They've been on YouTube and Instagram.
I've been following, yeah.
And I've been talking a lot about, because it's called the bass line, so I'm showing the lines I play and why. And I talk a lot about just the groove, which is the groove. And for no reason, it just all sits in. It's called in the pocket musically, in the pocket. And when that happens, oh, and it doesn't always happen. But when you all sitting in that groove, it's like heaven.
I agree, and I think in terms of bass players, Chris Novoselic, the bassist from Nirvana, is one of those bassists who's, in my opinion, pretty underrated. In general, I find that arguably the most underrated bassist ever is John Paul Jones. I mean, when you think of Led Zeppelin, a lot of people think right away about, Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, John Bonham, but I often find that John Paul Jones unfairly is left out of the conversation, even though he was such a huge part of that band. Do you feel the same way about John Paul Jones?
Well, it's I'm a bass player. I actually announced it. Maybe you said because of the known of those three, he gets a little bit overlooked because he is the bass player. But I announce from the stage when I go on every show, when I get to my solo, and actually it's when everybody else is doing theirs, because that's the number before my actual bass drum solo. But when I introduce the drum, I always say this is the bass player's best friend. And one thing nobody tells you is that the bass and the drums are the engine, and the bass and the drums are the engine, and we drive the car. Mm-hmm. Everything else is just a color. And a lot of people I actually did the bassline series on radio too, picking out favorite bass lines. And I educated quite a lot of people about, without knowing it, you're listening to the bass. It's what's moving you, but you don't realize it because you're listening to the colors. Like the peacock puts his feathers out. You forget the peacock, But without the peacock, you haven't got the feathers. That's a good way to put it.
So, you've mentioned before that in terms of modern day music, one of the things which has really hurt the business, in your view, are reality shows, things like talent contests, etc., that are now, all over TV and the internet. Why do you feel that they've been a negative for the business?
I've written 2 songs about it. One is called 15 Minutes of Fame, and the other on my current album is called Easy Pickings, both about reality shows. I will start off this comment by saying I do watch them because I'm not a hypocrite. I won't lie about it. They are entertaining. Of course they are. It's the very essence of entertainment. But where I think the bad part is especially things, just not the like America's Got Talent or the Britain's Got Talent, because that's more of a variety. But when you get these singing shows, it's now changed the reasons why people get into business. And they now, a lot of them, get into the business to be famous. And I really don't like that. You get into the business because it's in your heart and soul, and you can't not be in the business. Fame may come, fame may not, but you still are in the business. And that has changed that. A lot of people just, and when you look at it, you see somebody who's maybe a waiter or a waitress, which is fine, nothing wrong with that, but then they're on television with a production that even the biggest stars don't get. How can that be called a reality show? Because it's not. It's unreality. It's not the way it works.
If Nirvana were around today, do you think they would be as successful as they were back in the 90s?
Maybe even more.
Really?
Because the world always needs an anti-society person like that. And yeah, it's the actual opposite of what musically. Yeah, sure. I think they'd be even bigger. I do. They're great. I'm a big fan.
Really, eh? Interesting, because some of the people I talk to feel that they wouldn't necessarily be as big because since the internet's around and everyone's attention is split instead of the way it used to be with just MTV and the radio stations, they wouldn't have that focus. So that's an interesting perspective you have.
I think that's wrong. I think they would be. I think what he offered is even more important today.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this interview clip of mine, make sure to subscribe for more because there is a lot more coming. Everything on my channel is 100% original. I'm the one conducting all the interviews and doing all the editing. So if you want to support me, the best way to do so is simply to subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.